like to welcome our next speaker, Akira Urano, who is involved in the cyber intelligence-driven consulting business, vast experience as a cybersecurity threat research, and Akira is currently a senior associate at PwC Consulting in Tokyo, Japan. Akira will share findings from a survey conducted by PwC Japan based on the M3TID framework among 200 companies in Japan. Akira, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for attending. In this session, I'd like to share with you the best practices which we had learned from a large-scale survey conducted based on the M3TID framework. Let me introduce myself. My name is Akira Urano. Please call me Akira. I'm from Yokohama, Japan. I'm a senior associate at PwC Consulting, LLC, and I work in the cyber threat intelligence field. I began my career with so-called Japan Navy for 70 years. My previous job is a threat researcher at a major security vendor in Japan. I have also presented research at international conferences like Blackout Asia. This is our agenda for this session. Our first section is about the background. So, did you hear about strategic home defense or M3TID? Actually, yeah, I can skip this slide for those of you who attended training yesterday, actually. But M3TID stands for Measure, Maximize, and Mature Threat Informed Defense. And it is a maturity model for threat informed defense that was released by MITRE in April last year. This model defines and evaluates maturity by 15 key components from 3 perspectives: cyber threat intelligence, shortened to CTI, defense measures, DM, and testing and evaluation, T&M. Next, motivation behind conducting this large-scale survey. In my understanding, M3TID is basically a framework for evaluating maturity of own organizations, threat information defense. But in order to raise the maturity of threat information defense in Japanese companies as a whole, we thought it is necessary to understand the actual situation first. That's why we planned a large-scale survey using M3TID framework with the hope of quantitatively understanding the maturity of threat information defense in Japan and being able to make some kind of recommendations. Initially, we expected the result of a survey to understand the characteristics of overall maturity of threat information defense in Japanese companies, also extract factors that affect the maturity level. For example, we considered industry or business scale as possible factors. Moreover, derive recommendations. Next, methodology, how we did the survey. The survey overview. The criteria or the respondents work in the information systems or information security related fields, had a managerial position or above, and were from organizations the sales of 50 billion yen or more. A survey was conducted online, and we received 200 responses. Designing the questions. MITRE provides a spreadsheet and a web page to compile the maturity scores, and the form is provided in filling questions or options for each component. So most of you here have already used it yesterday. We translated these questions into the Japanese and added a few more questions and designed a survey form. These additional questions is about industry and company size and so on. The aim is to see if there is any correlation between those information and the maturity score. In addition, we encourage respondents to choose from multiple options as much as possible, which has advantage of making it easier to perform statistical processing as a quantitative variable when compiling. Data analysis methodology is a hierarchical and non-hierarchical cluster analysis on 200 responses using a widely known open source data analysis library. Cluster analysis is an analytical method that groups similar data from data set with various characteristics. First, we perform the hierarchical cluster analysis and gather a sense from out of graph that the data could be divided into roughly 7 or 8 groups. Next, we perform the non-hierarchical cluster analysis called the k-means. In this case, the parameter of k was set to 7 based on the earlier hierarchical cluster analysis. As a result, a group of samples classified into the 7 groups was obtained. Look like this. Next, about our insight. Characteristics of each clustered group. Sorry. Average maturity of Japanese companies. This slide shows the what we sorted relationships. Let's take a look into the average maturity level in Japanese companies calculated based on the 200 responses. The maximum score for each component is 6 points, but the results were 2.0 for CTI, 1.9 for DM, and 2.1 for T&E. Unfortunately, we can say the score is not so high. This slide shows the we sorted relationship between key components of each dimensions. The size of a circle for each component indicates the average maturity level. Solid arrow represent dependencies, and the dash arrow represent inclusions. As can be seen, the maturity of dissemination of threat reporting and T1 type of testing is relatively high. On the other hand, maturity of I4, utilization of threat information, and D5, deception operations, was extremely low. From this, we can see the Japanese company do not have a high level of maturity in threat information defense. They are focusing on distributing and the acquired threat intelligence to stakeholders and the content of a security test. However, threat intelligence is not generated by sufficiently analyzing threat information. And the effectiveness of security tests and the review of measures based on CTI may be low. In addition, the introduction of relatively advanced deception technology among security measures is not progressing. Next, let's take a result of cluster analysis. This graph is 7 groups classified by clustering and the overall average by dimensions and key components. When viewed by dimensions, the shape of a roughly similar to equilateral triangle of each group. They are different size except the group F, but when they're viewed by key components, characteristics of each group standard. Looking at group A, this group shows a high maturity level in all elements by the dimensions, but when viewed by key components, it's slightly lower than group B. In depth of select data, and extremely lower than group F in frequency of testing. In this way, the breaking down the maturity level of the clustered group by key components, it is possible to recognize the gap between each group and the overall average. Let's take a closer look at the group F, which shows this characteristic graph shape in the next slide. Let's look at the extreme difference scores between T2 frequency of testing and the T3 test planning for group F. What does it mean that frequency of testing in continuous and the test planning is ad hoc? Furthermore, overall CTI score is very low. A hypothesis derived from these facts is cybersecurity testing, such as execution of vulnerability scanning tools or breach and testing, breach and attack simulation tools, is frequently carried out without linking with threat informed defense activities. In this way, the shape of a chart is significantly different from perfect circle, allowing us to consider background circumstances. As a result, based on this hypothesis, we can show the direction of improvement, such as if maturity of CTI can be raised, test planning and testing will be linked to cyber threat intelligence activity properly. Next section about lesson learned. First lesson learned is no space to figure out a reason on our survey form. In the early slides, we discussed the consideration of background circumstances based on the hypothesis. In the first place, it is an assessment of own organization on the circumstances. It can be confirmed by contacting the person in charge, but with anonymous survey, it is difficult to ask additional questions individually after collecting responses. In the survey form, there's no column to figure out the reason why they selected the maturity level. Even if the maturity level is the same, the background circumstances are likely to differ depending on each organization. For example, a lack of understanding the threat of defense itself, or any limitations on human resources or budget, and so on. If respondents could figure out the reason on the survey form, I believe that it will be possible to perform fact-based factor analysis. Second lesson learned is a problem caused by number of samples in each group. Number of samples this time was 200. In the process of data analysis, we attempted a statistical analysis from multiple perspectives, such as by industry. But there's many cases where number of samples in each group was extremely small, and the results were not statistically significant. So we had to avoid mentioning them in our published report. It's because certain industries show a remarkable maturity level, but number of respondents in those industries in only a few. So we can say that those data represent the baseline for industry. If it had been possible to conduct a larger scale survey, we would have been able to calculate the baseline for each group from multiple perspectives, such as industry or company size. I'd like to summarize this session. In this session, we talk about the 4 things. First, motivation for large-scale survey. This time in Japan, but the aim was applied to M3TID framework to grasp actual situations of companies in specific region. Next, methodologies. We show the point of consider in design of survey. In addition, based on the reflections, we believe that more details of factor analysis will be possible by designing to the survey so that background circumstances can be filled out. Moreover, I show the data analysis can be performed by combining open statistical analysis, library, and widely known analysis method. The third is insight. We show the cluster analysis can observe notable characteristics at the key component level between each group. Also, I introduced the case study that allow us to consider background circumstances, although it's based on the hypothesis. Finally, sample size. The larger sample size, the easier it is derive statistically significant result, such as calculating the baseline. That's all my presentation. I hope this will be helpful for you in using M3TID in your organization and your region. Thank you.